Hey, what's up, everybody? My name's Tito Salinas.
And I'm Bo Kilgore.
Hey, we're just two normal guys trying to make an impact on the world around us.
Here's what we believe. Everyone's on a journey. Everyone has a next step to take. We want to help you discover what the next step is on your journey and then empower you to make an impact in the world around you.
This is the Brace for Impact podcast. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Brace for Impact podcast. My name is Tito Salinas.
Yep.
This is my buddy, Bo Kilgore.
What's up?
And we're so thankful that you're tuning in. We're so thankful that you're watching.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe some of you want to know what Brace for Impact is or what impact is. You see the cup right here, and maybe through my hoodie you can see impact. And what is impact? Well, before all this craziness happened, which we're living in right now, COVID-19, what week are we in? And
Dude, I don't even know.
I lost count, but I just know before COVID-19 and all these restrictions and all these restaurants and businesses closing down, before this, when everything was normal, once a month, a group of young adults is what we would call it, ages between 18 and 35, once a month we would get together and we'd go hang out. We went to the ice skating rink during Christmas. We had about 75 people show up. We did a campfire where we roasted marshmallows and had kebabs, and we just hung out, sang some songs. It's just pretty much young adults getting together in a safe atmosphere. I know if you go to the club or you go to a bar, you got to look over your shoulder. You got to worry about somebody looking at your girl or whatever. That's not what you have to worry about with Impact. Hey, we're just going, we're having some awesome fun, and that's what we were doing before all this happened. So, but once this COVID-19 hit, it was kind of like God started putting in my heart, what can we do? Everybody still wants to be impacted, the word impacted. And so the word impact, or just the whole wave of impact, came from Scripture. Actually, it came from when the Apostle Paul's talking in the book of Corinthians. He's talking about how he's become all things to all people. So basically, he's embracing culture and putting himself in people's shoes. And the end of that scripture, it says, so that they might be saved for the sake of the gospel of Jesus. And so that's what I believe. That's what's been in my heart since me and Bo have known each other. But I know and believe that if we can lay down our walls and not compromise the things of God, but put ourselves in people's shoes. And that's what I want people to understand here in the beginning is me and Bo are pastors here on staff at our church. But one thing that I know people have this facade or this image towards pastors is they're these perfect people. Or because they're a pastor, like, we have to treat them differently. And normal, we were playing Fortnite last night, I think. So, that's what we like to do. We're just normal people. We believe that everybody's on a journey. And we do believe that journey, there's no greater journey than having a life and a relationship with God, with the one who created you to be here. Right. And so that's what we believe. And so that's what this Brace for Impact podcast is going to be. It's going to be here to uplift you, to encourage you, to be able to help you through the hard times. And that's what we want to do, is through this hard time that our nation, that the world is all witnessing at this moment. Hey, just for 30 minutes or so, can we get in a conversation and maybe reach and help and impact somebody?
Absolutely.
So, and that's what we're doing. So I don't know if you want to hit on something, Bo.
Yeah, I would just say that, as we go through this podcast and each new episode comes out, our goal is to share content, share conversations with you. They're going to help you make some changes in your life. But the goal is we all want to live a life that's impacting the world around us. Hey, Tito and me, we want to live a life that's impacting other people, that's making a difference in our world, that's making a difference for our kids. And I know there's you guys want the same thing. So that's our goal, is to have these conversations to kind of dive into how we can make that impact.
That's right.
So I hope it helps you out.
Yeah, and so like I said, today's first topic, and we'll have people on, and so hopefully as we have people that are on during different episodes and we talk about different topics, that hopefully, hey, maybe it's not something that me and Bo can say, even though we're the pastors, right? But just know that it's normal people that we'll bring on that I know that are dealing with something, or that are actually really good at something in life. I mean, wouldn't you like some encouragement when it comes to your finances, or hey, how can I be free from stress or fear? Well, the good thing is God allows people to go through those seasons so they can in turn share that story that's going to ultimately bring him glory, but obviously help other people that are out there. So that's what we're going to be doing through this podcast. So, but our first topic today, it's me and Bo. We're going to talk about the journey. This topic is entitled The Journey. And pretty much me and Bo, we have the same title now, but how we got to this point in our life. Bo grew up in the church. So my first question that I'm going to have for Bo, that he can get into some conversation is, growing up as a pastor's kid, did you ever feel some type of pressure or expectation from that you had to like, lead up to the family business type of thing. Like one day you're going to take over the family business. I know for me, my dad was a professional baseball player. So growing up as a kid, it was baseball, 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 baseball. And I felt like, man, if I didn't do that, then man, maybe that's not what my life was for or something, And so I just don't know if you want to kind of hit on that and just help people understand that.
Yeah, well, I would say there definitely was pressure the same way there was pressure for you, what you're describing, feeling that pressure with your dad and, anybody that kind of has that family dynamic where, mom and dad own a store together or something, or own a family business, or, everybody goes into the same career field, or, the pressure is definitely there, the same as it is for everybody. But what I will say is, first of all, my dad, he's amazing. My parents are amazing. I never felt that pressure from my dad. I never felt that pressure from my mom. There wasn't this I guess there wasn't that forceful side of it where they were setting that expectation, like, well, you're going to go into ministry, you're going to go to Bible college. That's not where the pressure came from for me. I think for me, I started realizing when I was getting in my teenage years, 16, 17. I mean, I realized I was in a bubble. I could feel I was in a bubble because I grew up in this church. And then at the time that I was going through school, we had a private Christian school, and it was, I went kindergarten through 12th grade, man. Every year of my of elementary and junior high and high school was in a private Christian school. Not just a private Christian school, but I mean, the kids I was friends with at church, they were the people I was hanging out with at school. And my Sunday school teachers were also my science teachers. and the people I went to church with are the people that were running the school. So it's like I was definitely in this bubble. And as I got older, I could feel that, the expectation of people, because my great granddad was a evangelist and planted churches all over the place, and my grandfather was the pastor of this church, and my dad's the pastor of this church, and all three have, they're just amazing men and known all over the world for being pastors and ministers. And of course, there was that pressure, like, well, you're James Kilgore III,
And you got their names.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I think the pressure was there for sure. But the thing I love about my parents so much, and I appreciate about my parents so much, is they never were forceful with that. They really allowed me to kind of develop into my own person and have my own ambitions. And from the time I was in junior high, I had this fascination with the U.S. military, which of course, I'm not saying my parents wanted me to join the military or were even okay with it. They weren't, but it wasn't like they never put any ultimatums in my life. So I think one thing that pressure caused me to do is just, first of all, realize I'm in this bubble. But I didn't want to stay in this bubble. I guess when I got to be 18, 19, I wanted to kind of get out on my own and see what life was all about, man. Yeah. So that pressure, I think, is one thing that really caused me to want to walk away from it, because I was still trying to figure out who I was, still trying to figure out things about myself, and it wasn't possible to really do that in the bubble that I was in, where everyone was expecting me to do a certain thing and be a certain way and be a certain person, really. Yeah. So, no, pressure's real, man.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And that's one thing that hopefully the viewers can understand is what the pressure and expectation will do to you if you allow it to. And so I always think of the situations like when I was a little bit younger, you would see celebrities in the spotlight, and you see Britney Spears just one day have her head shaved. We would see this image of her with her head shaved, and automatically we would think she went crazy. Yeah. But little did we know, like, what that person was really going through, and, like, really struggling with, and like what the pressures and expectations of life will bring out of you if you don't have a solid foundation of where you turn to when tough times or when struggle comes. And so that's what we see from her. We saw from Kanye. Hey, thank God Kanye is where he is right now.
Pastor Kanye,
impacting the world with the Sunday service. So me and Bo were actually able to see him in the Sunday service choir at Lakewood when he came, and that was awesome. Pretty awesome. I've experienced a lot of things, a lot of different conferences, and that was something very unique and something awesome.
It was awesome, dude. It was awesome to be in that setting and have so many people there expecting old Kanye.
Yeah.
And they wound up hearing the gospel.
Yeah.
It was awesome, man.
Yeah. But, I think Kanye's like, obviously he's one of the most talented people. We can agree with that.
Yeah.
I guess a lot of people hated it, the fact that he would like just put it in your face, like, I'm the best, rapper or whatever, we think you're awesome, Kanye. 808 and Heartbreaks is probably like one of my favorite.
It's a good one.
Besides Jesus is King, but I'm not trying to show favorites or nothing. But I just think it's awesome that we can see somebody who used to be portrayed as something and then their life transform, and then obviously be able to use his hard times for the good, and that's what
absolutely.
I see, a lot of times with the way people grow up with pressure and expectation in their life, and they don't really deal with it well,
Yeah.
So, but hey, if Kanye can do it, hey, why not you? Why not me?
Yeah.
Hey, you're never too far gone to be made new is what I've always learned and been told. So
absolutely.
Yeah. But that's awesome. I mean, that Bo's journey from, being raised as a kid, and then also, like you said, he went to the private school that was here at the church, played sports with all the same people.
Man.
A community of the same people. So you have to think like, man, what made him get to that point to where he finally says, you know what, I'm going to break away from here and I'm going to see exactly who I am. I think that's harder. You could have took the easy route. You could have took the easy route and stayed nurtured and stayed, like you said, there's people that that, had the same lifestyle that are successful pastors or whatever.
Well, I'm kind of stubborn, though.
Yeah, well, I think we all are a little bit.
No, so. I think one reason why it was so easy for me to just walk away, I guess, if that, for lack of a better term, really, that's what I did.
Sure.
I walked away from church and really walked away from kind of this path that I could have taken. Yeah. And I think the reason it was easy for me to walk away is because when I got to that age, like I said, 18, 19, at that point in my life, I had grown up in Sunday school, grown up in a private Christian school where studying the Bible was one of my classes, memorizing scripture, quoting scripture.
Bible verse competition.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Bible quizzing, man. Yeah. But, I had all this knowledge and information, but I had not had that real encounter with Jesus where it made it tangible. Now, listen, I had incredible experiences with God in the altar. I've had these prayer moments where God is just moving on me, but I didn't have that experience in life where I really understood my dependence on God or understood my need for mercy, understood my need for grace. That's why it was easy for me to walk away. And look, like I said, there are people that I know who grew up the same way as me, and they didn't need that experience where they had to walk away and figure out their need. Yeah. They were on fire for God their whole life. They've never had this, backslidden moment.
Yeah, that's good.
But for me, I think that mixed with that pressure I felt, where it's like I was just kind of sick of having these expectations on me. Not like I said, it wasn't anything that people were saying, but it's like that was the expectation I felt. That was the pressure I felt. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I was just like, I was ready to do my own thing. I wanted to figure out who I was, man. Go somewhere where people didn't care about the name Kilgore.
Nobody
James
knew your
Kilgore
grandfather
III.
used to have these tent revivals and all these crazy moves of God. So, but I know one thing from the characteristics of your parents is patience and kindness, compassion. And I know, when I look at my life and how much of an impact that your family has had on my life, it's those characteristics that you rarely find at times when you need them the most. But I think it's those characteristics.
Oh my gosh,
is
man.
what changes your life.
You're talking about when you need it the most. You're absolutely right. Because when I was 19, I enlisted in the Marine Corps, and you talk about a drastic change of direction.
Sure.
It was basically my options were, I was in junior college at the time. I was going to San Jack South, but I kind of was looking at, okay, what am I going to do in the future? Mm-hmm. If I stay here, well, I'm probably going to wind up going to a Bible college, and I'll be hired maybe here at Life Church, as a 20-year-old kid that has no life experience at all. So my solution was kind of an escape and joining the military. Like I said, I had this fascination with it, but man, that's what I did, and it led to some hard moments in my life. But what I wanted to say is, you're talking about my parents and patience they show. That's part of what has made this so real for me, honestly, because when I did get into those moments where I was at my lowest and broken and going through incredibly difficult times. You know, I'm not talking about like things you encounter in the military. I'm talking about life. I'm talking about like depression and anxiety and addiction and all that. Yeah. In those moments in my life, it was my parents that were so amazing. Yeah. I mean, I remember 2 occasions where stuff was just like there was just craziness happening in my life. Mm-hmm. My dad just dropped everything. One of them, it was Christmas Day, man. Like, dropped everything and got on a plane and flew to where I was at to hang out with me 2 or 3 days until I was just kind of leveled out.
Sure.
And he'd sit with me and like on a balcony while I'm chain smoking cigarettes and drinking a beer and complaining about all my problems and cussing and everything.
Yeah.
And my dad, man, just full of love and grace and patience. He'd sit there with me. And, you know, he didn't approve of what I was doing. He didn't approve of the things I'm doing or the way I was talking. Yeah. But you know what? He'd sit there, he'd listen to me, and he would encourage me. He would tell me he loved me, that God loved me. Yeah. And it was that kind of reaction from him and his display, really the way that he was displaying the love and the mercy of God. My father is such an incredible example of our Heavenly Father, the way that he shows grace and mercy. Because, you know, he'd sit there and he would ask me, he's like, does this stuff make you feel better? You know, does this really make you feel better? Sure. You're smoking 7 cigarettes in a row. Does this really make you feel better? You're drinking, you know? Yeah. And he wasn't condemning me. He's like showing me, you don't need this stuff. There's a better way to live. And if it was really part of my testimony is that if it wasn't for that kind of stability and that example that he's my father. Of course, he's setting the example for me, but he sets that example for 1,000 people, you know, thousands of people, kids in the Philippines. Yep. He's setting that example of what grace and mercy and stability and all of these things, wisdom and kindness, you know, he's setting the example of what kind of transformation that can bring if we can have those kinds of things in our life.
Yeah, so I think like that encounter you had on the balcony with like your dad, you know, obviously Pastor Jim, but the fact that you had that encounter, like I see the same similarities in my life, but like an actual encounter with like the real freeness of what God brings, you know, because like one thing that when you were just sharing that story about you on the balcony and you're smoking these cigarettes and you're drinking beer, like people would look at that and be like, oh my gosh, you know, and here you have your dad who's a pastor of a church and everything like that. But more than anything, he was there. And all those things that you were doing doesn't change the fact that you're his son. Yeah. And so when I look at my life and I look at the things that I've done and the people I've hurt and the decisions I've made that weren't right decisions, that never changed the fact that God's still my father. Yeah. That I'm his son. Yeah. And so in that moment, like that's a perfect example. Man. Because in that moment, you know, how many people are going to get on a plane, fly to a different state, spend time with you? So that's where it really, you know, I don't think your dad really had to say anything, but the fact that he was there.
He's just there, man.
Hey, actions speak louder than words. And
look, dude, actually that same trip. Yeah. There was a time where we just got in my Jeep. He's like, let's just go for a drive. I was in Virginia. He's like, let's just go for a drive. Dude, we drove around Virginia for 2 or 3 hours. Yeah. And all we did was listen to Queen's greatest hits the whole time. You know, and that's one thing I will cherish that memory forever. I don't remember what we probably didn't talk about much. Yeah. It was just driving around. And you're right. It's the fact that he was there. He was present, you know. That's awesome. And that's the same way, like you're saying, man, God is that for us at all times, you know. Regardless of what we've been through in our lives up to this point, or regardless of what our past looks like, that is what God is like for us. He's there. Yes. He's just waiting for the opportunity to come into our life and help us in an awesome way. Yeah. Well, dude, I want to ask you a question real quick, because we've been talking about my dad and kind of the journey that I've been on. Dude, you've had quite the journey yourself. Yeah. You know, before all this pandemic happened and quarantine happened, Tito, you know, we were excited to announce Tito as our new student pastor and young adult pastor, and we were looking forward to that first Sunday. And then the pandemic happened, man, and we couldn't have church, but we announced it anyway, and we're rolling, man. We're improvising, we're adapting, overcoming this situation. Yep. But you have had a very unique story, and your encounter with God actually started, if I'm not mistaken, it started in a Bible study that was happening in a barbershop that my dad was leading, right? Yeah. Well, how long ago was that?
It'd be about 8 or 9 years now, I believe it is. Wow. And so, you know, I met Pastor Jim through another individual named Simeon Costa, who had an awesome impact in my life, you know, beginning stages of my life. Yeah. But one thing that I noticed right off the bat was, like, these people are real and genuine, because they would literally and I didn't think about this at the time. Obviously, you grow up and you think about, man, they were really at my house when they have a congregation of thousands of people that they could have been tending to.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wasn't even a member of Life Church, but what was it about me that kept them pursuing me and pursuing my family and pursuing, you know, me as a friend? They would really be there. I remember they drove, you know, an hour and a half or 2 hours away to go watch one of my soccer games. You know, I used to be real involved in soccer, and I remember seeing Pastor Jim and Simeon show up at my soccer game, and I wasn't expecting that, you know.
Wow.
But the fact that they were there, you know, it was like nothing was going to stop them from whatever it was at the time. I wasn't sure. I just knew that when I was around these people that I felt something that I had never felt in my life before. Yeah. And I think it's awesome that now that same person, like, I get to do life with, you know?
Yeah, man.
And so, but it's crazy though. And being able to be in front of the church and announce the fact that I was coming on stage, you know, or coming on staff never really happened. It happened in a different way, but I mean, everything right now is kind of different, you know?
Yeah, man.
But I think us being proactive and not reactive in this season, I think is going to be like a ripple effect after everything goes back to normal.
Yeah, you know, we didn't really have a choice in the way that we had to make some changes. We want to be responsible and we want to use wisdom. But then once those changes were made and there wasn't any turning back, you know, we have just kind of been proactive with, like you said. And like the first week you were on staff, you were like, man, we got to figure out how to get content to people during this time where we can't meet, we can't hang out. Yep. And this whole podcast thing is your brainchild, man. It's your desire to connect with people. And I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it was obviously the leaders of Life Church, the leaders that I've been around and surrounded by is just always thinking about that one lost sheep. And that was me at one point. I know that's all of us at one point in our life, you know, and we see in Scripture where Jesus talks about leaving the 99 righteous for the one lost sheep. And I'll never forget the moment where I was that one lost sheep, but it was Pastor Jim, it was you, it was people, Philip Daigle, all these people that were very significant in my life that kept pursuing me and kept believing me and kept encouraging me. And then obviously now, you know, I get to be in the position that I am and live the life that I feel like God has called me to live, you know. And I maybe never would have experienced that.
Let me ask you this, because, you know, we're talking right now about the journey, how we're all on a journey. Everybody's got their own story. Everybody's story looks a little different. Sure. But, you know, we all go through things in life that kind of shape us into who we are as people. Mm-hmm. So you walk into this barbershop for the first time 8-9 years ago. Mm-hmm. You know, you walk in expecting to go into a Bible study, but like what were you going through in the time? What did your life look like as you walked into this? Because this has kind of been a defining moment for you.
Yeah, so this is the pinnacle moment in my life. So at the time, you know, I'm with my wife and Samantha, babe, if you're watching, love you. You know, we're young in our relationship, real young in our relationship. We both worked at the same place. And so at this time and moment, what I thought growing up, what I thought the thought of God is if I put this mask on and let everybody know or think that I'm something, that I'd be okay, you know? Yeah. And also is like, well, I'm not a murderer. I'm not, you know, put labels on certain things. Like, so I'm good, you know? Like, hey, God, worry about that other person first before you worry about me. Like, I'm good. Like, I don't drink. I don't smoke. Yeah. You know, I treat people okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I used to think. Like, that's how God worked, you know? Yeah. But it was actually the barber, you know, at the barbershop who was, you know, a good friend of mine at the time. He cut my hair. He would always invite me to this barbershop. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Whenever I finally said, you know what? Something told me, because I would always come up with excuses not to go. Yeah. He'd be, hey, man, we're in Bible study on Monday, you know, like, come, you know, it's going to be awesome, whatever. You know, I got this going on. Hey, well, there was one day where I was out of excuses. Oh, man. And there was one day where you can't outrun the love of God. And that was the moment, in the pinnacle moment of my life, where I stepped into that barbershop and I thought I was being set up. Because I walk in the barbershop and nobody's there. It's me, him, and Simeon. Yeah. And Simeon's there to teach the Bible study. And Simeon's hair is all crazy. Yeah. And this dude's like, looked like he's been in a rush all day. And, you know, I didn't know who he was at the time. Obviously, me building a relationship with him and knowing, like, that dude's life was just, like, 4 people all day. Like, that's what he was doing. Yeah. And so I didn't know what it took for him to be in that moment until I started to, you know, see it come to pass. But I get in there and I'm thinking I'm set up. Like, they're about to, like, tag team me off the ropes, like, try and get me, like, you need to turn your life to God. Because that's what it was to me. Like, growing up, you see that 1-800 number on your screen right there. Man. If you don't call that number right now, God's not going to heal you. That's what I thought Christianity, or that's what I thought God was. And so I was real more afraid to open up of my vulnerabilities, of my sin in my life. But when I started to realize that I knew I had problems in my life and I knew I had sin in my life, but they never pointed it out. Yeah. growing up before that, everybody that I was around or whoever called himself a Christian would be like, oh man, you got tattoos, bro. Like, God's going to punish you.
Yeah.
Or if I had $1 for every time somebody told me that God was going to punish me, I'd be a pretty rich man right now. You know?
Yeah.
And that just put something in my head to just really have trust issues and who can I really trust? But in that moment, what I really figured out was I was in need of a friend, a real friend. I had a bunch of yes men, people that told me things that I wanted to hear, but I never had anybody in my life who challenged the way that I thought.
Yeah.
Who never came up to me and said, hey, Tito, did you ever think about this? Or, hey, have you ever heard? You know, I never had a spiritual, mentor in my life, right. I guess you would want to call it, you know? And so whenever I encountered that season of life, you know, obviously here I am today, and it just goes to show like that was the missing element in my life at that moment. So
so like walking into that place, how old were you that you were in your early 20s, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think it was 21 or 22.
20. Okay,
yeah.
So what kind of desires did you have for your life before you really encountered God and before he put this call on your life to minister? And now, your life is all about people and being a friend to people and impacting people.
Yeah.
Before that, you talked about pressure of being an athlete and everything. Mm-hmm. How has that encounter with God and how is this call now, how did that shift your mindset? Like, what were the things that you were focused on before, where now you're like laying it all down so that you can pursue people that are hurting and broken, trying to make a difference in the world around you?
Yeah, so I mean, if you would have told me 10 years ago or 9 years ago if I'd be a student pastor, I'd be on staff at this church, I would have laughed at you. Not only just to like a pastor, but obviously the church that I would end up going to, that I would, it's crazy. Like I said, my whole mindset was around, man, I got to go to seminary school, I got to go to Bible college, I got to know all these things to be able to be put on staff, at this church. But being on staff at a church wasn't even a thought. Yeah. Because I didn't grow up. I'm the first person in my family that's ever, been on staff for ministry or full-time ministry or anything, But what my mind was wrapped around at that point in time was, what can I do for myself? Yeah. It was all about me.
That's good.
And it was never about other people. It was about, man, hey, come watch me, or hey, come watch my sports, and hey, come do this for me and do this for me. And a lot of that was all pointed on me, and it left me in a place where it was just, man, pride was so strong in my life, and my ego, and it just affected me. So like I said, if you would have told me back then that I'd be where I am now, it's no comparison. But obviously I think, but one thing too is I've stayed true to who I am this whole entire journey. My whole entire journey throughout my life, I think I've stayed true to who I believe God created me to be. I love the type of music that I love. I love to dress. I think I have to explain to people that I'm a pastor more because of my appearance. And I think that'll be a later episode that we want to talk to, so I don't want to get into that one, but like when I introduce myself, I'm like, they're like, you're a pastor? Like, yeah, I'm that guy, man. Sorry, but just because of what the appearance has become for people and what a pastor is and what you have to meet the criteria of, but once people start to really shift their focus and realize, like, look, we're normal people. We're transparent people. I'm a father. I got 2 kids. You are a father or husband. You have.
We still have problems. We still go through stuff, man.
It's all good. Like, God doesn't call us to live this perfect, lavish lifestyle. Instead, he calls us to look to Him, who's the only one who looked to have a perfect lifestyle.
Right.
So I think that's where I was in that moment, was what could benefit me. And then obviously making this transition to now is God has ultimately changed my heart, and it's always for lost people, because that's who I was in a point in time. So God used my story, and then now God's given me the ability to be able to, I'm not going to say I know all of God because my brain weighs 3 pounds. There's no way I'll know all of God, but I do know a characteristic of God and what He's allowed me to be passionate about, and that's what's allowed me to be able to impact many people and be able to help people along their journey to figure out what's this whole God thing about.
Yeah, that's so good, dude. And that's, one thing I wanted to talk about is, first of all, we've talked about, we're all on a journey. We all have these stories that define us. But the thing that's made the difference for me, and the thing that's made the difference for you, and, by no means am I saying we've made it or anything. We're still on this journey. We still have lots of things we're going to encounter and deal with and overcome. Mm-hmm. But the thing that has been that defining thing in our life has been Jesus. I mean, it's been God coming into our life and helping us make these changes. if you've heard my testimony, you've heard me talk about like different things that I've gone through, man. There was times in my life where I was full of depression and anxiety and addiction, substance addiction, and I'm divorced. I've gone through some situations in my life that really they took me to my lowest. I mean, but in 2015, I was like I said, divorced, addicted to pills and alcohol, and super depressed. In a very low place, feeling insignificant, feeling lonely, feeling broken, and just really had no aspirations for my life. I had a good job in the sense that I was compensated well, but it wasn't something that gave me a sense of purpose and fulfillment. Yeah. And I really just hit this low point, and that's the encounter I had with God, where I woke up in my bed on like a Friday or Saturday morning, hungover, like couldn't even get out of bed, feeling like I'm going to throw up. That's good. And in that moment, just feeling like, oh my God, what are you doing with your life? You're a wreck. What kind of father are you going to be if you're going to continue to live like this? What kind of son and friend? And, it was in that moment where I really was just like, God, I need you in my life. I know I've grown up hearing about you and reading these stories, but now I need you. Yep. Man, and it was in that moment. There are some encounters that you have with God where it's like tangible. Absolutely. It's tangible. And it was in that moment where I'm like trying to form the sentence, and I'm trying to form these words of, God, I need you, please forgive me, that I felt God just surround me in that moment. Yeah, I probably still smelled like booze, Sure. And God is surrounding me. And I tell you, the feeling that I felt is not like this condemnation of like, you better get your life together or you're going to hell. It wasn't like that. The feeling I felt was, I love you. I'm for you. I'm here to walk beside you. I'm here to help you. I forgive you. It was that overwhelming feeling of peace and of mercy. And it was just like, along with that, this is what happened though. Along with that, it gave me like this fire. Like, man, God is for me. Yep. He forgives me. He's with me in this. I can have a better life, man. Mm-hmm. And Jesus said in John chapter 10, verse 10, this is what Jesus said. He said, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Absolutely. I have come so that they may have life. But he doesn't just stop there. He doesn't say, I've come that they may have average life. The forgiveness of God and this journey that you go on with Jesus, it doesn't just bring you back to like zero and even you out. He says, I've come that they may have life and have it to the full. And I think that's what you and I are blessed to be experiencing right now, is this full life with Jesus, being empowered by the Holy Spirit, pursuing things and trying to be the best version of ourselves that we can be. Yep. And that's where we're at on this journey right now. And look, we're still young men. We're still young adults. This journey is really just starting for us. And that's right. Man, this encounter with God and Jesus coming into our lives and really helping us make that change and make those transitions that we need to, and weed out the unhealthy stuff in our life. Absolutely. That's what's made the difference in this journey. And I think that's what everybody needs to make these changes in their life, or to have an impact on the world around them and to fulfill their purpose in life. The way that God has created everyone with a unique purpose. You don't have to be a pastor. You don't have to be a pastor. You don't have to be, involved in a ministry or something like that. You can own your own business, or you can work at a bank or whatever. You need to be the best person that God has created you to be. Find out the things that He's created you to do in life. Mm-hmm. Influence the circle that you can influence. Yep. And He can help you do that, man. I'm thankful for that. Yeah, no, absolutely. One thing that I always like to tell people is kind of like, even though we have flaws and even though we do struggle with things, I remember one time I was at the park and I looked on the ground and there was a bunch of like sticks and broken branches. And I picked up one of the crooked, broken branches, and I drew a line in the ground, and the line still came out straight. Crooked sticks still draw straight lines. That's good. So even if you are broken, even if you're hurting, even if you are going through a time of doubt or suffering or whatever it is, just like a crooked stick is crooked, you would think, hey, it's crooked, it's going to draw a crooked line. It didn't. It drew it straight. It became so apparent to me in that moment through a stick in the ground, out of all things, that's us. Yeah. We're not perfect people, but we have the ability to be able to do some amazing supernatural things. Yeah. Jesus says, if whatever you do, do it in my name. Yeah. We're going to represent Him. And in all reality, it's not even, the reason why that line comes out straight is because God allows that line to be straight. He allows us to be able to impact people. So God made you passionate for something.
God has made you have the ability to be able to connect with people that I can't.
Yeah.
But hey, my story might be able to help somebody, and your story might be able to help somebody. But it's not until we start having those conversations where we break down all the barriers and all the walls and say, hey, look, this is where I'm at on my journey, and this is what my next step is. But I don't know if you want to tell them what that next step is.
You know, this is what we're all about at Life Church. And we, first of all, one of the things we say all the time is we're all on a journey. Doesn't matter if, you know, if you've never believed in God until now or you grew up in church, doesn't matter. Everybody's on a journey. Everybody's got a next step that they need to take. And what we want to do through this podcast really is we just want to talk about life. We want to talk about being parents. We want to talk about relationships. We want to talk about finances. We want to talk about culture, you know, music, whatever. We just want to talk about things that are relevant to everybody. And, you know, there's going to be things that as we have these discussions, we're going to talk about how if we allow God into this situation, if we allow God into our life, if we allow him to partner with us in those situations and in those areas of our lives, that he can maximize it, that he could take it farther than we ever could on our own. So that's what we want to do with this podcast. We'll hope you keep tuning in for it. Hey, if you want more information about Life Church, just go to life.cc/connect, or you can look up the Young Adult Ministry Impact on social media, HTX Life Impact. Yeah, HTX Life Impact on Instagram, on Facebook, and stay connected to what's happening with Tito and with all the young adults here at Life Church.
That's right.
We're just hoping that we can make a difference, make an impact in this world, make an impact in the world around us.
That's right. So, hey, if you like this video and you're looking forward to more, why don't you share it with somebody, or maybe put some comments in there. You know me, add me on Facebook, add Bo on Facebook. Hey, if there's anything that you need or we could help you with, or maybe there's a topic of conversation you'd like us to tackle and talk about, hey, we're all for it. So, hey, put it in our inbox, or you know, message us or comment it down below. So, hey, we love you. We're thinking nothing but good things for you, and you know, praying on God on your behalf. So,
absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Love you.
See you next time.